You've all risen to positions of leadership. We've all risen to positions of leadership by executing well, by driving outcomes, and leading people is part of that and can be one of the most challenging elements, but also one of the most rewarding. So I'd like to start talking about one of your greatest joys as a leader.
I think the biggest joy of being a leader is seeing your people succeed, is seeing the things that you've taught them actually come to fruition and seeing them do really well in a job. I was the Expeditionary Fast Transport, the PAPLM, Principal Assistant Program Manager, and almost the first day on the job, I was told that Congress had added this autonomous prototype and we had to award, execute, and get it done within the next year. The ship would be going to trials on this 333-foot ship for the very first time, driving autonomously down to Cuba, essentially, and back, while I was out on maternity leave. So you can war game all you want. You can put in plans for who's in charge of this and who's in charge of that, but it's the execution that really matters when it comes down to it. So I had all these plans in place. We went through drills. My team did extremely well. They performed well. The ship got underway. We logged in over 180 hours of autonomous work. All the reports were there. All the data was there. And it just was the easiest set of ship trials that I've ever been on. And again, I've gone through everything from LCS trials to all kinds of trials in the fleet. And this trial was a breeze. And I didn't think it was going to because my team had done really well. And it was such a joy as a leader to see the successes of my team and everything they had done to make it go really well.
One of the leadership lessons we often hear is, a mark of how successful you've been as a leader is what happens after you're gone. What happens when you're not there? Does the place fall apart? Does the place keep running? And clearly, it kept running. So that's great.
I think for me, and this is the fun stuff. But when former sailors and officers ask you to do their re-enlistment, to me, that's one of the biggest honors that somebody can ask you to do. You have that connection. And I have this one sailor, we have a running joke, I've done her last 3 re-enlistments. So she worked with me as a BM3 and she's now a chief. And I told her, I said that, she's on the fence if she's gonna stay in or get out. But I told her, I was like, let me know, because she's in San Diego. I was like, I'll come fly there. So she's like, whether it's a retirement or a re-enlistment, I'll be there to finish her out.
I didn't know this was a joy at the time, but in one of my early flying tours after 9/11, I was assigned to USS Peleliu, LHA-5, and we were deployed when 9/11 happened. A lot of nighttime flying, a lot of challenging flying, and the Navy, for those who aren't familiar, an LHA has all Marine pilots and aircraft, except for one small detachment of Navy search and rescue, and I was the only woman Navy pilot, no women military or Marines. So when I talked on the radio, they knew who it was. Dark and scary night, tricky landing. I'm at the controls. I land. I'm kind of freaking out because it was a long time in the pattern, and I nail a landing. And the air boss says over the radio, "Nice landing, side flare." That was our call sign. And I clicked the radio and I said, "Thank you, sir." And I was like, why did I do that? Because everyone heard me, and I knew that I would catch a lot of grief for it. And I thought, well, that was a really big mistake. Until 3 or 4 months later, when we were on our way back home. And this young female Marine, she's not a pilot, not an aviator, an enlisted female Marine, stopped me in the hallway and she said, I was in the tower that night when you landed and the air boss told you it was a good landing. And I just want you to know that up until that point, I didn't even know that women could fly in the Marines or in the Navy. And I put in my package and I'm gonna try to get a commission because I saw you and I heard you. She got motivation from me. And that, I could have ended my career there and I would have been happy.
I had a limited duty officer peer that I worked with, senior to me in experience, but a rank peer, and he was retiring, and part of his retirement ceremony, he was doing something called Old Glory. And in Old Glory, there's a folded ensign that gets passed from the most junior person to the most senior person. It's presented to the retiring service member, and it is often then given to a spouse or a mom or dad. Everybody else in his old guard ceremony was from his time on the Dolphin. And they had some very harrowing moments, and he said, I would love for you to be a part of this ceremony. I think that what I would like to offer is that don't feel like your leadership moments, your joys in leadership need to be while you're in a position of leadership. I think in that moment as a peer, he demonstrated tremendous value as a leader in reaching out to me and making sure that a peer felt seen and acknowledged. And then from a peer side, don't feel like the leadership is only what you can bestow to those below you. Like, where are your peers, where are your friends, like what are the ways that you can help and lead and influence them? So I would just encourage, when you think of leadership, don't think of it as a one-way street.